The official story about Garnett Silk's death is a complete lie. I am revealing the shocking truth about what really happened that night in Mandeville. The evidence they hid for decades points to something far more sinister. You must stick around until the end, because the final piece of proof will change everything you know about this tragedy. The fire started with a sound no one could ever forget, a sharp, cracking noise that broke the stillness of the night, followed by a rush of heat and screams. Mandeville, usually calm and quiet under its misty hills, was suddenly lit by an orange fury that devoured everything in its path. Inside that inferno was Garnett Damian Smith, known to the world as Garnett Silk, a man whose voice had carried the soul of reggae into a new dawn. He had sung of faith, of righteousness, of love that could move mountains. But on that December night in 1994, the same warmth that once radiated from his music became the fire that claimed him. To understand the magnitude of that loss, one must first journey back to where it all began. Garnett Silk was born on April 2nd, 1966, in the quiet community of Hatfield, Manchester, Jamaica. His was a humble beginning, one that smelled of fresh soil and echoed with the distant hum of sound systems playing roots reggae on weekend nights. He was a child of the earth, raised by a mother who believed in discipline and a father who worked hard for every meal. School never held much magic for young Garnett, but rhythm did. He could transform words into melody and make the air dance with his voice. By the age of 12, he was already a local wonder, performing under the name Little Bimbo, with the Soul Remembrance sound system. It wasn't the big stage, but it was a sacred training ground. Every night he learned how to hold a crowd, how to speak truth through vibration, how to command respect through calmness. That was where Garnett Silk learned that music wasn't just entertainment, it was communication with the divine. In the mid-1980s, he left the hills of Manchester and made his way to Kingston. The city was buzzing record producers on every corner, singers hustling for mic time, riddims floating through open windows. It was a jungle of opportunity and competition, and young Garnett walked into it with nothing but his faith and his gift. The Kingston years were hard. There were nights when he slept on studio floors, mornings when he woke up not knowing where his next meal would come from, but destiny had its eyes on him. Then came the turning point, the meeting that changed everything. Through the guidance of DJ, Tony Rebel, and dub poet Yasa Safari, Garnett Silk was introduced to the teachings of Rastafari. It was as if he had found the missing half of his spirit. His locks grew, his lyrics deepened, and his music became a form of worship. He began to sing about the Most High, about purity, justice, and spiritual awakening. The transformation was total. Gone was Little Bimbo, the dance hall chanter. In his place stood a man of deep conviction, an artist whose songs felt like scripture set to rhythm. The rise was meteoric. By the early 1990s, Garnett Silk's name was on everyone's lips. When he stepped on stage, people described it as witnessing a revelation. His voice smooth, honeyed, yet firm as iron, had the rare power to comfort and convict at the same time. He sang Kingly Character, a song that called every listener to dignity. He sang It's Growing, a declaration that faith was alive and multiplying. He sang Love is the Way, a message that reached beyond religion into the universal. Audiences wept, danced, and shouted his name. Reggae at that time was searching for a new prophet. Bob Marley had passed more than a decade before, and though many great voices had come since Gregory Isaacs, Dennis Brown, and others, Garnett Silk carried something different. There was purity in his delivery, a calm spiritual authority that made elders call him the Anointed One. Even the streets, rough as they were, respected him. He didn't preach down to the people, he sang with them, not at them. As his fame spread, so did his dreams. He signed with Big Beat, a subsidiary of Atlantic Records, and began recording tracks meant to take reggae back to the global charts. He collaborated with Richie Stephens, producing the hit Fight Back, an anthem for the oppressed. Everywhere he went, his aura drew people in, young musicians, journalists, producers, and fans alike. But behind his radiant smile, life was not all harmony. Fame brought pressures, financial burdens, constant travel, and the strain of balancing family with purpose. Still, Garnett remained grounded in love. He adored his wife Lovey and his children deeply, always speaking of them as blessings from Jah. He dreamed of building a home for his mother in Mandeville, a peaceful space where she could rest after years of struggle. That dream, ironically, would lead him to his final night. In early December 1994, Garnett's property was reportedly burgled. Thieves had broken in, taking construction materials from the site of the house he was building for his mother. Disturbed and protective, he borrowed 2 weapons from his attorney for safety. Friends would later say it was unlike him to hold a weapon. He was a man of peace, but Jamaica's reality often forced gentle souls into hard corners. He was determined to protect his family, even if it meant learning to wield what he despised. On the evening of December 9th, Garnett was at his mother's small home in Mandeville. The night was typical of Jamaica's highlands, cool, calm, and draped in mist. Inside, there was laughter and light talk among friends. Someone offered to show him how to handle the weapon safely. What happened next remains one of reggae's great mysteries. A single shot rang out, and seconds later came the blast. The bullet had struck a propane tank. The small home burst into flames, turning night into chaos. Those who were there remembered the heat, so fierce it melted glass in seconds. Garnett and several others managed to escape through the haze. Outside, coughing and disoriented, they realized his mother was still trapped inside. Without hesitation, Garnett ran back in. It was instinct, love, and faith all colliding in one fatal act. Witnesses said they heard him call out for her as the roof gave way. When the blaze finally died, rescuers found them together, mother and son, bound in the final embrace of fire. But the story doesn't rest there. The official account claimed it was an accident, a tragic chain of events. Yet many who knew Garnett Silk refused to believe it ended so simply. His house had 2 exits. He was no novice around a weapon. How could a man so composed, so aware, fail to escape again? Rumors began to swirl. Some whispered he had been lured to Mandeville under false pretenses. Others said he caught thieves red-handed and paid the price for confronting them. And then there was the darkest theory of all, that he was deliberately unalived, that the shot was no accident, and the fire was a cover for something unspeakable. The mystery grew with every retelling. Others believed his fame had made him enemies, those who feared his growing influence as reggae's next global prophet. In Jamaica, where truth and rumor often danced together, the story became folklore. Even now, decades later, no one knows what really happened inside that burning house. What is certain is what came before, a man deeply devoted to his art, his people, and his faith. Garnett Silk was not a singer who chased hits. He was a vessel of spirit. When he sang, "Fill us up with your mercy," it was not performance, it was prayer. He carried himself like a man chosen for a divine task, and those around him felt it. His humility was legendary. He would share food with strangers, give money quietly to those in need, and reason for hours about the goodness of Jah and the unity of humankind. After his passing, Jamaica grieved like it had lost a son. Radio stations played his songs endlessly. His image appeared on murals across Kingston, and tributes poured in from across the world. The loss was too heavy to process. The voice that had promised a new dawn had been silenced in the dark. In one of fate's cruel twists, his wife Lovey gave birth to their 4th child, Garnett Silk Jr., on April 3rd, 1995, the day after what would have been Garnett's 29th birthday. That child became the living continuation of his name and melody. As he grew, his father's music guided him like scripture. 3 decades later, the mystery remains. Some call it divine destiny, that the Most High called his servant home at the peak of his light. Others still whisper that injustice was done, that Garnett Silk was taken from us by human greed and jealousy. Whatever the truth, his spirit refuses to die. Each time his music plays, each time a youth in Kingston or London or Lagos sings his lyrics, the fire reignites not to destroy, but to remind. He was the bridge between the old and new, between Marley's prophetic thunder and the tender spirituality of the next generation. His songs were not just rhythms, they were living testimonies. Love is the way, Zion in a vision. fight back, each one a sermon wrapped in melody. Garnett Silk, må det reggae feel sacred again. In the end, perhaps that is the lesson his story leaves behind. A man may perish, but truth does not burn. Faith does not collapse under flame. And love, real, divine love, lives beyond smoke and ashes. The tiny house in Mandeville became his final altar. And from that altar, his voice still rises, echoing across time. Love is the key. Love is the answer. Love is the way. And somewhere, beyond the veil of that December fire, Garnett Damian Smith, the humble singer who became Garnett Silk, still sings. Now you know the disturbing truth behind Garnett Silk's mysterious death. Tell me which part of this story you find most troubling. Let me know if you believe the official account or suspect a deeper conspiracy. Share your own theory about what really happened that night in the comments. Make sure to follow for more uncovered truths about music's greatest unsolved mysteries.